If you're going to Ireland, then you must watch this video on my top tips for a more pleasant experience when traveling to Ireland. Starting off with tip number 1 is rent a car. If you want to see the unseen parts of Ireland and you're brave enough to drive on the other side of the road, then I would highly recommend renting a car. One of my tips is to check with the rental agency about insurance. You're going to have to get their insurance, so be prepared to pay more for insurance than you would in the US. Another tip is to check with your rental agency if you can go into Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland is a different country. Some rental companies may not let you go into Northern Ireland. Just check with your rental agency first. If you're worried about driving a car, I would suggest going during the shoulder season and not during the summer months. The roads will be way less crowded and it'll help you get around a lot faster. So this brings me to tip number 2, visit during shoulder season. In Ireland, this would be September through November or March through May. Like I said before, there's less people, less crowds, so you'll be able to see more of Ireland. Hotels will be much cheaper. When you visit during shoulder season, make sure the attractions you want to go to are open. Most places have websites, so check them before you go. If you go into the less touristy places, you may be the only one in the hotel. We did experience this a few times where it felt like we had the hotel to ourselves. My next tip is nothing starts early. If you are an early riser like me and you want to catch the sunrise, keep this in mind. You may get locked into your hotel. We ran into this a couple times where I got up early to go check out the sunrise and all the doors were locked for the night. I couldn't figure out how to open them. It took me probably 10 minutes to figure it out because no one was around, not a soul. So if you plan to get up early and go get the sunrise, inform your host that you would like to get up earlier and what you need to do in order to get out. This holds true for the evening for pubs and restaurants. Sometimes they don't open until the evening. My next tip is that Ireland has the best water. Make sure you ask for still or sparkling. They may or may not ask you, and you may get sparkling when you want still. The water was usually cold, but if you like ice in your beverages, you're going to have to ask for ice. We just asked for a glass of ice when we got our water. Some hotels will give you water and some won't. If the hotel has a restaurant attached, you can usually go down and ask for a bottle of water. Tip 5, breakfast is usually included. Ireland is known for their bed and breakfasts. Most packages you get have breakfast included. They have a buffet set up and you can order off the menu too. The places we stayed usually had restaurants, so we were able to eat just on site there. So I didn't have to drive extra. So we just either walked to a restaurant or pub to eat or just the one attached to our hotel. Anywhere you go will have great food. Tip number 6, bring an adapter. I have a universal plug that looks like this. So I just plug it in and then they have USB. I think mine has 4 USB chargers. Some of our hotels had USB chargers next to the bed. I would still bring an adapter if you want to charge everything. You won't find the hairdryer in the bathroom or a plug in the bathroom for that matter. So usually they have a dressing area or a desk, and that's where you will find additional outlets and the hairdryer. But sometimes I had to dig to find the hairdryer. One of the cool things about Ireland is you can turn on and off the outlets. So if you plug something in and you're like, why is this not working? Check to see if there's a switch somewhere that you have to turn the outlet on. Kind of a cool thing. So if you leave for the day, all you have to do is just turn the outlet off and it won't be charging anything. Tip 7, cars are small. And they have to be because the roads are small. They are like bike paths in the country. Keep that in mind when you are packing, that your trunk space will not be very big. They do call the trunk of a car the boot. So if they say, do you need a large boot? Yes, you do. You want a larger boot in the car. We've been lucky both times we've rented a car in Ireland that they upgraded us for no charge to have a little bit more space. One time though, they gave me a big van and there was 3 of us, and I walked out and I thought, yeah, no, I'm not driving that big van on those small roads. So I had to go back and ask for a different vehicle. I said, yeah, this is too much of an upgrade. I would prefer a smaller vehicle. And they gave me a really nice vehicle with heated steering wheel, which was so nice in the cold, rainy weather there. Speaking of cold and rainy weather, this brings me to my next tip. Tip number 8, waterproof shoes, and basically waterproof everything. It doesn't matter when you're in Ireland, July, October, April, it will rain. You will get rained on at some point. Extra socks and wool socks are highly recommended to bring. Don't be surprised if you walk onto grass or a lawn thinking, oh, that's just grass. I'll be fine to walk in it. It could be a bog. I always tell my mom, no, you need to have bog-proof boots, not just waterproof boots, because you sink in and it just soaks up into your shoe. You will also want a rain-proof, not water-resistant, waterproof jacket. I can't tell you how many times we got caught in the rain. It looked great. We hiked and I said, oh, I'll leave my rain pants in the car. No, never leave your rain pants in the car. You will want to bring them with you. So have a backpack to keep your layers, like your rain jacket and your rain pants, and an extra warm layer as well, because weather changes a lot. Tip number 9, Ireland has the best hospitality. They want to make sure your every need is met. They're friendly, kind, every person that I encountered in Ireland, with the exception of one city, but we won't go into that. Everyone was kind and nice to us. So the hospitality in Ireland is top notch. Always ask if you need something and remember to be kind and respectful in return. It goes a long way. A bonus tip, if you like to use washcloths, some hotels don't provide washcloths, so you'll have a hand towel and a bath towel. Tip 10 is tipping is not required. However, if you have great service, which we almost always did, they truly appreciate the tips. If you give them a tip, they're so thankful and grateful and appreciative. So we often tipped 10%, which is pretty much the going rate. It's not like the US where you have to tip 20% for everything. So if we had a 50 euro bill, I would tip €5. If we were at a cafe, just throw down a couple euros when you leave. It's much appreciated. And another thing about tipping at restaurants and pubs is that you will have multiple servers. You don't just have one server that comes to your table and they're solely with you. You may have the bartender, you may have a server, you may have the hostess. They all work together. They share all of the tips. You will have to ask for your check. They don't just drop it off. They know you are there enjoying your meal. And when you're ready, you can pay. If you're at a pub-style restaurant, you'll go up to the bar and pay. If you're at a restaurant, usually they bring you their credit card machine. I always say, please put €5 on the bill for tips. So either have euros on hand to put on the table or ask before they charge your card and say, please add €5. Tip 11, talk to the locals. Ask them, where should I go? Where is a great place that's not touristy, that's beautiful and not crowded? I have found some of my favorite places based on a recommendation from someone I talked to, whether it's the front receptionist at the hotel or someone at the grocery store, or don't be afraid to just talk and ask. They know this area really well, but be prepared when they tell you where to go to listen really carefully, because they rattle off names that I'm like, where? How do I get there? What's the road? It'll be like, oh, turn right at there and then left, and it's some name that I can't pronounce. So be prepared if you do ask for recommendations to have a piece of paper and pencil and write it down, or they'll write it down too. I've had someone just write it out for me and say, here you go. They're so friendly and nice and come with awesome recommendations. I've had some great conversations with some locals. I try to steer away from politics conversations. So if it goes that direction, which sometimes it does, I just change the subject. You can sit and talk with a local for a long time, so be mindful of that if you're on a schedule. Tip 12 is family rooms. So I traveled with my mom and sister. There was 3 of us. We preferred to have our own bed. So it was tricky to find bigger hotel rooms because we didn't want to have 2 rooms because that got to be too expensive. So oftentimes I would look for the family room or the triple room, and oftentimes it had 2 beds and sometimes 3 beds. Their queen size bed is not queen size. It's double. It's like a double size. So 2 adults, it can be a little crowded in the bed if you have to share. If you're traveling as a family, just remember to look for the hotels that have a family room or a triple room. Tip 13 is food may not be what you expect it to be. If you order bacon, it's most likely a slice of ham. I would ask for crispy bacon, which sometimes I would get traditional crispy bacon like I'm used to in the US, but sometimes it would just be a slice of ham that's crispier. If you ask for chips, you're going to get fries. They call their fries chips, and they offer them with almost every meal. If you want chips, you need to ask for crisps. That is what they call potato chips. Another thing that I noticed doesn't taste the same are candy bars. I had a Snickers, and it did not taste like a Snickers from the US. It was almost like higher quality and better chocolate in Ireland. So I would highly recommend stopping at a chocolate store. They're all over and they're so good. Tip number 14 are different names and sayings for things. I talked about the car with the trunk is called a boot. The bathroom is called a toilet. I know I've heard jacks, but I never heard anyone call it that. It was usually toilet. Takeout restaurants is takeaway. A parking lot is called a car park. So you can ask, where's the car park? For gas, check with your rental if your car is a diesel or unleaded. And when you're at the gas station, those are your 2 options. You have a diesel pump and an unleaded pump, and that's it. If you want to say, hi, how's it going? Hey, say, how ya? Tip 15 is when to visit attractions. If you want to avoid crowds, you're going to want to go early, right when it opens, or later when it's about to close. So if it opens at 9, I get there right at 9 because tours will most likely start coming at like 10 or 11. And then if it closes at 5, I would get there at like 3:30, 4 o'clock. And most people are just leaving at that time. So sometimes you'll have the place to yourself. Also look for some of the hidden gem attractions that aren't as well known, that don't have a lot of people. Like if you want to go to the cliffs of Moher, then I would go to Hag's Head instead. I think it's way less crowded and I liked the vantage point from there much better. And you can still walk all along and even walk to the visitor center from there. Or you can go on the north side and start in Dublin and walk down if you want to have a long walk. Some more cliffs that are really cool are the Kerry cliffs. I would highly recommend the Kerry cliffs. I think they are just beautiful and they're not very crowded. You won't be able to truly see everything Ireland has to offer. I've been there 3 times and I still haven't seen half of Ireland. You're not just going to visit Ireland 1 time. You will want to go back because it is so beautiful and so friendly and just a great place to visit. Tip number 16, there are no clocks in the hotels. Every place we stayed did not have a clock. So I never really knew what time it was because I didn't always have my phone with me. I think they just assume that people have phones now and don't need clocks, and it's an expense that is no longer needed. Keep that in mind when you're in your hotel room. There are no clocks. Another thing we experienced is daylight savings time is not the same in Ireland as it is in the US. They were a week ahead of schedule than we were. So I went through daylight savings times twice this year. We didn't even know it was daylight savings time, and I woke up and I looked outside and I go, why is it so light out? This is weird. Like I couldn't figure it out. As we were coming back from the morning sunrise walk, on the front desk it said, don't forget to turn your clocks. And I was like, oh, it's daylight savings time. So keep that in mind if you're going in October. I think it's the last Sunday in October that they change the clocks. Tip 17 is the temperature in your room. There is no temperature gauge. You can't set the room to 65 or 72. Sometimes the heat's not even on. It's controlled by the front desk. There were a few times we were super cold, so we asked and they're like, oh yeah, I turned on the heat here. I was like, oh, that's nice to know. So if you're cold or hot, just talk to the front desk and ask them, hey, how do I change the temperature in my room? Or it's cold, or they can usually tell you how to do it. Don't suffer like us. The water temperature sometimes is a bit chilly. I think my sister had to take 2 cold showers because she could not get hot water. But sometimes the water was scalding hot, and sometimes it was freezing cold. We just couldn't find a good water temperature. So if you have any tricks on how to do that, let me know, because the nozzles are a little different too. Every hotel we stayed at was just a little bit different. Tip 18 is to charge in euros. Oftentimes when you go to a store and they give you the credit card machine, it'll say, do you want it charged in US dollars or euros? Always pick euros. But check your credit card before. Sometimes certain credit cards will charge you a conversion rate. And in that case, maybe it is better to do US dollars. I don't know. But I was told by a few locals, actually, that you should always charge in euros. So that's what we did. And my credit card, when we got back, had already done the conversion. And it was the typical conversion that you would have gotten without an added percentage, which I'm pretty sure some stores will add a percentage if you charge in US dollars. So keep that in mind. Charge in euros. Tip 19 are a few driving tips for you. If you're using Google Maps, it won't always tell you what the road is called. So it would say turn right. So I would listen to it. But make sure you put it into Google Maps when you're in a town to your destination and keep it that way. Because if you're out in the country, you're not going to have a signal. But if you plug it into your Google Maps before, when you have a signal, it will get you there. Remember that roundabouts are the opposite directions. So in the US, you're usually veering right at a roundabout. In Ireland, you're going to be veering left at a roundabout. The speed limits are in kilometers per hour, not miles per hour. So it'll say 85 kilometers per hour. I'm like, whoa, 85. But your speedometer will say what it is. So it's not too bad. But some of those little tiny roads were 100 kilometers per hour. And I was like, who's going 100 kilometers on this road? So just be aware that there could be some people speeding up on you. In certain roads, I did not feel comfortable going that speed. But then there's main highways, and then you're going 120 kilometers per hour. And I was like, oh, this is breeze. It's fine. So do what's comfortable for you. You will have to pay to park in the bigger cities, or the bigger towns, I should say. When we were in Killarney, if you parked after 6 o'clock and you were gone before 8 a.m., you could park in the parking lot and not have to pay. So just watch what it says, read the directions. You'll be good to go. We're almost there. 2 more tips. Tip number 20, make an itinerary. This saved us so much time thinking about where should we go? What should we do? I researched for months ahead of time to decide where we wanted to go and how many attractions we could fit into one day. How many nights do we stay? Because you have to remember drive time. First time we went there, I feel like I didn't really put drive time as much into it. So we were jamming a lot in the time that we had. The next time we would stay 2 nights at a place. So then we'd have a full day to explore. You can do a lot in a day, but it depends on how long you want to stay at the attractions and which ones you want to go to. When you're making your itinerary, don't forget to leave a little bit of room for some advice from locals, though, like I mentioned earlier. This brings me to my last tip. Tip number 21, pack light. I can't stress this enough. You are not going to want to carry a big roller suitcase. It's just, there's no room for it. And oftentimes the parking lot is not right by the hotel. You may have to walk, and the roads may be cobblestone or uneven, and you may have to go upstairs. They don't always have elevators. What I would suggest is to bring a small carry-on size roller bag with all your stuff and then a backpack. That's what I did, and we went for 2 weeks, and I was able to pack everything I needed in those 2 things. But remember to save room for souvenirs. Think about a capsule wardrobe. Every top goes with every pants. You can re-wear your clothes. No one's going to care. No one's going to see you the next day and be like, oh, you wore that yesterday. They don't care. You're on vacation and you want to pack light and enjoy not carrying so much luggage. Leave all the extras at home. You don't need them. A bonus tip is to bring a packable day pack. So if you're at the hotel and you're leaving for the day, or you have all your luggage in your suitcase and you don't want to carry everything with you, just get a small little backpack and you can share it among your travelers, just so you can put your rain gear or layers into the backpack, and water. Don't forget water. It's important to stay hydrated. I hope these tips will help you have a more pleasant experience in Ireland. If you have any extra tips and tricks that you have learned while traveling to Ireland, leave them in the comments so other people can read them. Thanks, and enjoy your trip to Ireland.